And thank you so much for joining us this afternoon at WFXR News at 12:30. I'm Charmaine Brown, in for Amanda Kenny.
And I'm Evan Johnson. Let's get straight to our top stories this half hour. Recapping the latest from Eastern Europe, a new threat in Russia's already horrifying war in Ukraine strikes on Europe's largest power plant, igniting a fire at that facility, which supplies 25% of the country's power. A dire warning from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy after Russian military strikes Friday, and it sparked the fire at Europe's largest nuclear power station. Attacks on the plants and its 6 reactors could trigger another emergency just like the 1986 Chernobyl disaster.
Wake up, please. There are 6 energy blocks there. 6. In Chernobyl, 1 energy block had exploded.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in Brussels today. He's meeting with NATO and European Union leaders to talk about the Western's response.
Joining us now live in the studio is Pastor Daniel Palmer. He's the lead pastor of North Roanoke Baptist Church. Pastor, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you're also on the board of the Ukrainian Partnership Foundation. First of all, if you could just kind of tell us what type of work your church does through the organization.
Sure. Well, I've only been on the organization for a few months prior to the war, and so I hadn't really involved my church that much. But now that the war has started, many people in our church are getting involved by sharing charitable contributions to help with the situation there. My work prior to that had been sort of planning for the future of the seminary, strategizing, fundraising, setting up a Facebook page, things like that. And then obviously the invasion of the Ukraine has changed a lot of things.
Are there any refugee stories that you're willing to share right now?
Sure. We've seen day 1 of war, dozens of refugees, and now we're serving about 300 refugees with every passing day. And just a couple days ago, there was a young man and his mother fleeing a city that was being bombed, and sadly they had recently lost their other child, and so he was not feeling well and he didn't tell his mom. They made it to Lviv, which is in the western portion of Ukraine where the seminary is, and the nurse there at the seminary said, you're really not doing well, we need to get you to the hospital right away. And he actually had to have emergency surgery. Wow. That was life-saving surgery for him. And our foundation was going to foot that bill, but the doctor and the hospital comped the entire thing for him. So yeah, lots of food, lots of clothes, lots of diapers, lots of women and children fleeing a lot of horrific things going on, but we're able to minister in Jesus' name, and we're pleased to be able to do that.
We're seeing pictures and videos now coming out of the Ukraine during this war. How are your counterparts doing there?
It's tough, you know. They're struggling, but they're enduring, and they're enduring because they've got a lot of Christians here stateside who are standing with them, Christians around the world who are standing with them, and ultimately because they know Christ. Christ says in John 16:33, you're going to have trouble in this world, but behold, take heart, I have overcome the world. And what I would say to anybody who's listening is Christianity is not a faith of comfort and prosperity. It's a faith of hope and joy in the midst of difficulty and adversity, because we serve a King who's coming again and he's overcome the world. And Easter's next month. Now, a lot of people have said, you know, how are you dealing with this? How is this making you feel? How are you able to still have faith in the midst of all that's going on, inflation and crisis and everything else? And at the end of the day, Jesus told us it would be trouble. And he told us he's coming again. And I would urge anybody who doesn't know him to trust him today, and you can have the peace that overcomes the world.
Well, certainly this is a test of your faith. People watching and the crossfires of everything going on. What are you telling your congregation here in Roanoke?
Much the same thing. We should not be surprised by adversity or calamity. We know that the world has a good end when our good King comes back for those who know him. And from this day to that day, persevere, endure, don't lose heart.
Pastor, thank you so much for being on with us this afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.